Welcome to this week's question. How do you go to market in Asia Pacific? Now, what we're about to go through applies everywhere. In Europe, in Africa, the Middle East, South America, even in North America. It's just the size of the challenges vary depending on the local situation. Okay, to start thinking about going to market in Asia Pacific, we need to cover three areas. First, it's complex. Secondly, one size never fits all. And third, we need partners and local team ownership. Asia Pacific is complex for a number of reasons. Let's begin with understanding the first two, the challenge of critical mass and coverage. We start by comparing the GDP of countries, which is a proxy for addressable market size. And here we've first plotted the USA as our base case. We then have China, which has the largest GDP in Asia Pacific. In fact, the next 16 countries combined is still less than China. The graph shows us that the GDPs of these 16 countries are spread wide but shallow. This means having direct team coverage in each country is uneconomical. We can add to the graph the metric of GDP per capita, which is a proxy for wages and cost of living. Here we see the dramatic variation across Asia Pacific, which makes this even more complex. We now look at culture and communications. Now, understanding cultural differences is important. When you're in Thailand, don't use your left hand to shake hands. When you're in Japan, don't stick your chopsticks vertically in your rice. It is much deeper than that. Researcher Gert Hofstede develops 6 dimensions that measure a country's culture, and I was fortunate enough to attend a workshop by Gert Hofstede. Now, the Culture Factor Group has continued his work, and we can use their data to plot the dimensions for 9 of our Asia Pacific countries. What we've done now is summarize this into one group, and the yellow line shows us the USA cultural metrics. Our chart highlights how the countries not only vary compared to the US, but to each other. There is not one Asia Pacific culture, but every country has its own culture. In addition, there's the language consideration. For the highlighted countries, local language is required for products, services, documentation, training, and support. This means our digital platforms need to be double byte character set enabled. All these factors flow into commercials and contracts. How do you price countries for Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Australia, when neighbouring countries like China, India, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines are watching on? And we need to be careful that we don't cannibalize our global markets by having spillover contracts. And did we mention that we have fluctuating foreign exchange rates and withholding tax across 20 plus countries? It is getting more complex. All of this that we've covered so far leads to the next area. One size never fits all. Now, organisations typically expand their functional silos to cover the Asia Pacific market. And what we can do is redraw the go-to-market teams onto a world map to highlight these issues. Here, our sales teams report to Europe and then across to head office in the US. We add to this our sales engineering, followed by delivery, which includes remote support. What happens next is we receive top-down annual budgets. And given the variations across Asia Pacific, the chances of each country's budget being right is slim to none. Added to this, we're given top-down KPIs. Now, this usually creates a mismatch to each country's business cycle, which have different financial and tax years. Often, top-down KPIs end up being impossible to achieve in one quarter and a breeze in the next. The next problem is our global functional silos really slows down our decision making. We don't just have prisoner's dilemma, we have prisoner's dilemma on steroids. When we have these functional silos that wrap around the world. When decisions need to be escalated, and with Asia Pacific's complexity they often do, our approval process quickly spreads globally. This runs into the problem of different time zones. We can use this chart to explain the problem. In the northern summer, the start of Melbourne's workday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., overlaps with the end of New York's workday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. the previous day. But Singapore and Bangalore, have no overlap with New York. In the northern winter, Melbourne and Singapore have no overlap with New York, but Bengaluru has only half an hour. What happens is approvals become a game of global decision ping pong. Once requests are sent off, we then sit and wait for the managers to wake up. A day is lost. If just one manager wants a change, the prisoner's dilemma kicks in. We make the change and bat the ping pong balls back again. A second day is lost. Now a different manager disagrees with the new change. Back we go again. Another day is lost. To stop the global ping pong game, we set our alarms for 2 a.m. to join a meeting in everyone else's time zone. Ask any Asia Pacific person and they will tell you getting up in the middle of the night for conference calls is standard practice. Okay, Asia Pacific is complex and an approach of one size fits all will not work. So what do? Well, to manage the challenges of Asia Pacific coverage, language, local support, etc., what has evolved over time is the entrenched practice of working through partners. Let's explain this way of partnering. We start by creating demand. Our customer becomes interested, but instead of reaching out to us, they first look for a local partner. We learn about the opportunity when we receive a call from the partner, not the customer. So to get started, we sign up the partner to a once-off reseller agreement. This flow here highlights that a key difference with partnering in Asia Pacific is that the main relationship is between the customer and the partner, not the supplier. We are working through the partner. Now, to make this work and reduce our risks, the partner program needs to be firm, fair, and consistent, as well as the last point, the Darwin model. We qualify the new partner, but we need to be prepared to cull if required. This is because there are thousands of partners in Asia Pacific which are being selected by customers and not ourselves. In order to be firm, fair, and consistent, we need to keep ahead of our partners and customers. We need to act quickly, which keeps us in the control seat. To do this, we follow Colonel John Boyd's OODA loops: observe, orient, decide, act, where speed is the key. Okay, so we observe and orient ourselves with the local situation. Next on to decide. Here we send off our ping pong approvals and we wait and we wait and we wait. This leaves the door open for our partners and customers to go off course. To keep control, the local team needs to have ownership, where ownership equals empowerment times accountability. This is enabled by building our teams out using the team topology principles in recursive team structures. We now have empowerment, and this structure also scales better. Here we have less middle managers, down to 8 from previously at 15, and there's no dependency on remote support. Again, adding in the OODA loop process, we now have accountability with that empowerment, which creates team ownership. This leads to being self-sufficient, self-managed with fast execution. Okay, to summarize, to go to market in Asia Pacific, there are 3 main areas to consider. 1, it's complex. 2, one size never fits all. And 3, we need partners and the team needs local ownership. Thanks for watching. We hope that was useful. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, ideas, questions in the comments below. On our YouTube channel, Unlocking Change, we go into some of these issues in greater detail, including interviews. So finally, we'd just like to say thank you. Shukriya, Dhanyawad, Terry Makasi, Kobkun Krap, Shishi, Domo, Arigato, Gozaimashita.